Everyone tells you to stay silent, build in the shadows, keep your moves invisible, and for years he did exactly that. A tech billionaire worth $2.3 billion. No interviews, no social media, no public appearances, pure silence, pure secrecy. He thought he was playing the game perfectly. Then his competitor launched. Loud, public, aggressive. Within 18 months, that competitor owned the narrative, controlled the market, and buried him. His company collapsed. His investors fled. His $2.3 billion evaporated. Not because his product was worse, but because nobody knew it existed. Silence killed him. And it's killing you too. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Machiavelli understood 500 years ago, silence is a weapon, but only when wielded strategically. Blind silence. That's suicide. Because while you're building in secret, someone else is building your reputation. And it's not the reputation you want. The world doesn't reward the best product. It rewards the loudest voice attached to a good enough product. You can have the sharpest blade in the world, but if no one knows you're holding it, you're powerless. Invisible power is no power at all. Today, you're learning Machiavelli's noise principle, not the shallow advice everyone repeats, the real framework. When to be silent, when to be deafening, and how to know the difference before it costs you everything. Because here's what they won't tell you. The people preaching silence the loudest, they're the ones making the most noise. They tell you to stay quiet while they dominate the microphone. That's not strategy, that's suppression. Let's break the silence rule. Permanently. You've been fed this romantic idea of the silent genius, the quiet builder, the person who lets their work speak for itself. Steve Jobs in his garage, Elon building rockets in secret, the lone wolf who emerges from nowhere with a finished empire. But that's a myth, a dangerous, career-destroying myth. Because every example they show you of silent success, those people weren't silent. They were strategic about when and how they made noise. There's a difference, and that difference is everything. Jobs didn't stay silent. He orchestrated product launches like theater. Elon doesn't hide. He's the most vocal CEO on the planet. The silent billionaires you admire. They have PR teams, media strategies, and carefully crafted public personas. They're not silent. They're selective. But you took the advice literally. You went dark. You built in private. You avoided attention. And now you're wondering why no one cares about what you've created. Why investors don't call. Why customers don't come. Why your brilliance sits in a corner collecting dust while mediocre competitors dominate. Here's why. The market doesn't discover genius. It responds to noise. And if you're not making any, you don't exist. It's that brutal. It's that simple. Machiavelli wrote that fortune is like a river. When it floods, it destroys everything in its path. But the wise build channels to direct the flow before the flood comes. Noise works the same way. The market is a flood of attention. If you don't build channels, public presence, strategic announcements, visible momentum, the flood passes you by. Or worse, it drowns you while lifting your competitors. The silent builder believes quality will win. But quality without visibility is invisible. And invisible quality is worthless. The loud builder with a decent product captures the market while the silent genius starves. That's not theory. That's pattern. That's history. That's reality. So the question isn't whether you should make noise. The question is, what kind of noise? When? How much? And to what end? Because random noise is just as deadly as silence. You need strategy. You need Machiavelli's framework. And that's what you're about to get. The first principle Machiavelli would teach you is this. Silence without strategy is not humility. It's surrender. You're not being modest, you're being invisible. And invisible people don't build empires. They get conquered by those who do. Let's be clear. Silence has power, but only when it's intentional. When you disappear because you're preparing a devastating move, that's strategy. When you go quiet because you're afraid of judgment, that's weakness. The market smells the difference instantly. Machiavelli watched rulers who stayed quiet out of caution. They avoided conflict. They hid their strength. They thought they were being wise. But enemies interpreted silence as weakness. Rivals filled the vacuum. And by the time the quiet ruler tried to assert power, it was too late. The narrative was set. He was irrelevant. The same happens in business. You stay silent while building. You think you're being strategic, but the market interprets your silence as absence. Competitors define you before you define yourself. They tell the story of your industry, and you're not even a character in it. When you finally speak, people say, "Who are you?" Not because you're new, because you were silent so long they forgot you existed. Here's the tactical truth. Strategic silence is temporary and purposeful. You disappear to build leverage. Then you explode into visibility when that leverage is ready. But chronic silence? That's not strategy. That's fear disguised as patience. And fear never built wealth. The difference is intent. Silent because you're plotting? Power. Silent because you're scared? Suicide. Know which one you are, because the market already does. The second principle, noise doesn't just announce your presence, it shapes how people perceive your value. And perception is reality in the wealth game. Not truth, not quality. Perception. Machiavelli understood that the prince who appears strong is strong. The prince who is strong but appears weak gets overthrown. Appearance drives reality, not the other way around. And appearance is built through noise. Think about luxury brands. Rolex isn't better than a $50 Seiko in pure function. Both tell time. But Rolex makes noise. Advertising, celebrity endorsements, prestige messaging. That noise creates the perception of superiority, and that perception lets them charge 1,000 times more. Same product category, different noise, different reality. You're doing the opposite. You're building a Rolex and selling it like a Seiko, because you're not making noise. You're waiting for people to discover your quality. But discovery doesn't happen. Positioning does, and positioning requires noise. Here's the framework. Noise is how you tell the market what you're worth. If you're silent, the market assigns you a value, usually 0, because unknown equals unproven. Unproven equals risky. Risky equals worthless. But if you're loud, strategic, and consistent, you control the narrative. You tell them you're valuable. And if you say it with enough conviction and frequency, they believe it. This isn't manipulation. This is market dynamics. People don't have time to investigate every option. They rely on signals. Noise is the strongest signal. Silence is no signal. No signal means no value. It's that mechanical. Emotion doesn't enter the equation. So if you're not controlling perception through noise, someone else is. And their version of your story will not make you rich. The third principle, when you stay silent, you hand your competitors a megaphone, and they will use it to bury you. Not because they're evil, because they're smart. And you gave them the opening. Machiavelli warned that princes who don't control the narrative become victims of it. Someone will tell your story. The only question is whether it's you or your enemy. And if it's your enemy, you're finished. Here's how it works. You're building in silence. Your competitor launches a louder, inferior version of your idea. They flood the market with content, ads, press releases. They become the face of the category. By the time you emerge, you're not the innovator. You're the knockoff. You're the one playing catch-up, even though you were first. This happens constantly. The loud, mediocre player beats the silent genius. Not because they're better, because they defined the space first. They owned the language, they captured the attention, and once attention is captured, it's almost impossible to reclaim. Your silence gave them that power. You thought you were being strategic, but you were being naive, because in a competitive market, silence is an invitation. It says, I'm not defending my position, come take it, and someone always will. The tactical move. Make noise early, even before you're ready. Announce your intent. Claim your territory. Put a flag in the ground that says, "This space is mine." Then build toward that claim. That noise protects you. It signals ownership. It forces competitors to position themselves around you, not the other way around. Silence doesn't protect your idea. It abandons it. And abandoned ideas get colonized by those willing to speak first. The fourth principle, noise before launch creates momentum that silence can never match. The silent launch dies on arrival. The loud build-up creates a wave you can ride for years. Machiavelli observed that generals who announced their campaigns attracted soldiers, resources, and allies before the first battle. The quiet general fought alone. Noise is recruitment. Silence is isolation. Think about every major product launch. Apple doesn't build in secret and surprise the world. They leak, they tease, they create anticipation. By the time the product drops, millions are already sold mentally. The launch is a formality. That's strategic noise. It turns a release into an event. You're doing the opposite. You're waiting until it's perfect. Then you launch into silence. No anticipation, no momentum. No one cares because no one was prepared to care. You're asking people to react instantly to something they've never heard of. That's not how attention works. Here's the framework. Noise in phases. Phase 1. Announce your mission, not the product, the problem you're solving. That attracts believers. Phase 2. Share progress. Show the journey. That builds investment. People root for you because they've been watching. Phase 3. Launch. By now you're not introducing yourself, you're delivering on a promise people already believe in. That's momentum. That's strategic noise. And it compounds. Each phase makes the next easier. Silent launches have no phases. They're one-shot gambles. And most fail because the market wasn't ready to receive them. Strategic noise doesn't just announce, it prepares the battlefield. And prepared battlefields win wars. The fifth principle: silence is only a weapon when people know you can speak. If no one knows you exist, your silence is meaningless. You're not being strategic. You're being ignored. Machiavelli understood that a ruler's silence carries weight only if his previous actions proved his power. The king who stays quiet after a victory is feared. The nobody who stays quiet is forgotten. Context determines the power of silence. This is where most people fail. They try to use silence as a power move before they've established any power. They think mystery creates value. It doesn't. Mystery without foundation creates confusion, and confusion creates dismissal. Here's the sequence. First, make noise, establish presence, prove value, build reputation. Then, and only then, can you use silence strategically. When you disappear after proving yourself, people notice. They wonder, they speculate. That silence has tension because it contrasts with your established presence. But if you start silent, no one wonders where you are. They don't know you exist. Your silence is just absence. There's no tension, no intrigue, no power. Think about celebrity social media. When a major public figure goes quiet after years of posting, it creates news. Articles are written. Fans speculate. That silence is powerful because it breaks a pattern of visibility. But if an unknown goes quiet, no one notices. There's no pattern to break. The tactical move. Build your platform through noise first, establish that you're a force. Then you can weaponize silence. Use it to create scarcity, to build anticipation, to signal you're working on something major. But you can't start there. Silence without a foundation is just obscurity. The sixth principle: the market doesn't reward the perfect message, it rewards the frequent one. Consistency beats quality in the attention economy. And if you're silent waiting for perfection, you've already lost. Machiavelli would say that the ruler who acts often stays relevant. The ruler who acts once perfectly is remembered briefly, then forgotten. Frequency creates presence. Presence creates power. Power creates wealth. This is brutal for perfectionists. You want every word to be perfect, every announcement to be flawless, so you wait, you edit, you delay. And while you're perfecting your one message, your competitor has sent 50 imperfect ones. Guess who owns the conversation? Not you. Here's the algorithm reality. Platforms reward frequency. YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, they all prioritize accounts that post consistently. One perfect video a year gets buried. 50 decent videos get promoted. It's not fair, but it's mechanical. The algorithm doesn't judge quality, it measures engagement. And engagement requires visibility. Visibility requires frequency. The silent builder posts once a month. Maybe. The strategic noisemaker posts daily. The market sees the daily poster as the authority. Not because they're better, because they're there, every single day. That repetition creates familiarity. Familiarity creates trust. Trust creates transactions. Your perfection doesn't compound, but frequency does. Every post is a lottery ticket. The more tickets, the higher the odds. Silence gives you 0 tickets. You're not even playing. The tactical shift. Lower your quality threshold. Increase your output. Ship before you're ready. Let the market decide what's valuable. Because your silent perfectionism isn't strategy. It's procrastination disguised as standards. And procrastination never built empires. The 7th principle, noise doesn't just attract attention. It filters for the right attention. Your silence attracts no one. Strategic noise attracts your people and repels everyone else. That's not a bug. That's the feature. Machiavelli knew that the prince who speaks clearly attracts clear allies. The prince who hides attracts no one. Or worse, attracts opportunists who don't understand the mission. Noise is how you signal your tribe. Here's how it works. When you make noise about your values, your mission, your standards, you repel people who don't align. That's good. You don't want everyone. You want believers. And believers only find you if you're loud enough to be found. The silent builder thinks they're avoiding haters by staying quiet. Wrong. You're avoiding everyone. Haters and supporters. And you need supporters more than you fear haters. Because supporters become customers, investors, partners. Haters just make noise. But their noise often amplifies yours. Think about polarizing figures. Elon, Kanye, Trump. They make massive noise. Half the world hates them. The other half worships them. And that's exactly why they're powerful. Their noise filtered the audience. The believers go all in. The haters provide free advertising. Silence achieves neither. You don't need to be polarizing, but you need to be clear. Clear values, clear positioning, clear voice. That clarity requires noise, and that noise will attract your people while pushing away everyone else. That's not a problem. That's precision. The tactical move. Make noise that aligns with your mission. Don't try to please everyone. Speak to your tribe. Let the others leave. Because a small army of believers beats a large crowd of the indifferent. And you'll never build that army in silence. The 8th and final principle. Silence slows you down. And in a speed-based economy, slow equals dead. The market rewards velocity. Noise creates velocity. Silence creates stagnation. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors the bold, but boldness requires visibility. You can't be bold in secret. Bold moves demand witnesses. Without witnesses, your boldness is just private courage. Admirable, but useless. Here's the competitive reality. When you move in silence, you move alone. Alone is slow, but when you make noise, you attract help. People join, investors call, partners emerge, customers pre-order. That collective energy accelerates everything. One person building in silence takes 10 years. One person building loudly with a team takes 2. The silent founder says, "I'll announce when it's ready." But ready never comes, because building alone is slow. And slow gives competitors time to catch up, pass you, and own the market before you ever launch. Your silence didn't protect you. It gave them a head start. Speed compounds through noise. Every post attracts feedback. Feedback accelerates improvement. Improvement attracts more attention. Attention attracts resources. Resources accelerate speed. It's a loop. But the loop only starts when you make noise. Silence breaks the loop. No feedback, no attention, no resources, just you, alone, grinding in the dark. You're not being strategic, you're being slow. And slow doesn't win anymore. The tactical imperative: make noise as you build, share progress, ask for input. Let people watch the journey. That visibility creates speed. Speed creates dominance. Dominance creates wealth. Silence creates none of that. It creates isolation. And isolation is the most expensive mistake you'll ever make. So now you know the truth. Silence isn't the strategy you thought it was. It's not humble. It's not mysterious. It's not protecting you. It's erasing you. And every day you stay silent, someone louder is taking what could have been yours. The billionaire who disappeared. He's not coming back. His empire is gone. His silence killed him. And your silence is doing the same thing. Just slower. Just quieter. But the result is identical. Irrelevance. Here's your choice. You can keep hiding. Keep building in secret. Keep waiting for the perfect moment to emerge. And you'll keep getting the same results. No attention, no momentum, no wealth. Just frustration and confusion about why others with less talent are winning. Or you can adopt Machiavelli's noise principle. Start making strategic noise today. Not random noise, not attention-seeking desperation. Strategic noise. Noise that positions you. Noise that builds momentum. Noise that attracts your tribe. Here's your immediate action. Pick one platform. Post something today. Not perfect, not polished, just real. Announce what you're building. Share one insight. Show one piece of progress. Break the silence. Right now. Because every hour you wait is another hour someone else is getting louder. Machiavelli would tell you that fortune doesn't come to the silent. It comes to those who command attention. And attention comes from noise. Strategic, intentional, relentless noise. Stop hiding. Start speaking. The market is listening. But only if you're loud enough to be heard. Silence doesn't build empires. Strategic noise does. And now you know the difference. If this shattered your old beliefs, hit that like button. Subscribe for more Machiavellian principles the gurus won't teach you. Share this with someone who's been building in silence and wondering why no one cares. Drop a comment. What's one thing you've been keeping silent about that you're going to announce today? Let's break the silence together. Remember, in the game of wealth, the invisible don't just lose. They never existed. Make noise. Make it strategic. And make it now. The world belongs to those who speak. Make sure that's you.